welcome back to the SwansCast podcast. Bear with us because there's a second take of recording, so some of the old recording might be inserted in here now. And then we're going to continue as normal because we had some technical difficulties. But just in case, I'm with Ben and Lee this week, so welcome back, lads.
Happy to be here for a second time.
Yeah, I know, it always happens, doesn't it? Gotta love technology sometimes. It either works swimmingly or it just doesn't want to work at all. It's never like in between. But yeah, we'll crack on. So we were discussing Swansea City basically haven't scored in 4 games. We've talked all season about how blunt the attack is. Well, I've preached about it since day one, since basically even the end of last season. And what's the solution to that? I think everyone wants to know the answer to that question now. So Ben suggested potentially is the time to make a formation change to go 5 at the back. And then how do you fit in what we have currently within the squad into that system? So yeah, that's kind of where we got to, isn't it? So Lee, I know I interrupted you before we kind of cut off. So do you want to get back to the point that you were making on that?
Yeah, no, I was just kind of venting some thoughts really about like just trying to look at the bigger picture. I know we talked about how bad it is, and we know there's no excuse in it. But I was just saying, you could argue we're only 11 games into a managerial regime where, it could just be that some things are still working its way out. But it's clearly not good enough. And Ben, we were saying about like changing formations. But you were right. I think like one of the biggest criticism with Williams is that we don't even change it like in the middle of the game. Like fair enough if he's got an idea of the way he wants to play and maybe the players are not quite fitting into it at the moment. I guess you could argue that. But like you said, in the middle of a game where like Blackburn, for example, we're losing 1-0 away. Why not change it completely and put 2 up top or just chuck more bodies forward or have some of the youth players on the bench to bring on with a bit more spark. But just sticking to that game plan, 90 minutes. They move the ball so slow, like they don't even look like I would be happy for the last 5 minutes if we're losing if they start abandoning that a little bit and start pumping balls forward or being a bit more direct. But nothing changes. And Ben was right when he was saying like must be so easy for teams to like play against us because they know we're going to play the same way for 90 minutes, whether we're 1-0 down or not, or 1-0 up. It's just exactly the same. So it's just frustrating.
Yeah, it is very easy for teams to play against us. I think we talked about that quite a lot last week, didn't we? How it's kind of the same blueprint to defend against what we're doing at the moment. If you want to look at these 2 games specifically, so we're talking about Blackburn and Sheffield Wednesday. 1-0 loss away to Blackburn, 0-0 to Sheffield Wednesday. Blackburn, we had 68% possession away from home, and Sheffield, we had 62% possession, again away from home. But we're not really troubling the opposition with all of that ball. Quite often, I think part of the reason you play this sort of football is try and tire the opposition out and make chances because of the way you're moving the ball around. They get tired defending for so long, and that's where the opportunities get created. So why is that just not happening? Why does it seem that it's the opposite, where they just let us have the ball, conserve all their energy, and we just can't seem to benefit from playing this sort of style of football?
It's because teams know they don't need to press us. They're just sitting in, they contain us for the first 45 minutes every single game because they're not home and away. By the way, teams do not push us in the first half because they know. Well, it's hard to even call us a first half team at the minute. But we're certainly not a second half team. We're far from it. And like Lee said, the speed we move the ball at is very nonchalant, very slow build up. The striker's still barely getting on the ball, so it's very much just slow build up, get out wide, aimless ball comes into the box. And teams are happy to defend like that against us for 45, 60 minutes. And then usually they'll push more in the last half hour because, like you say, they've conserved their energy and then they go for it. And also they always bring on subs and they always have more impact than ours.
Yeah. Yeah,
so
no, I know
strength in depth. The subs because I think our strength in depth is awful. But this is kind of going back to what I was trying to say last week when I was saying specifically about the players. I know our build-up is slow, but we kind of don't have the quality across the board, particularly in that front 4, to cause any damage. I know some players have played well, like better than others, but I don't see anything there that causes teams any problems. And I think that's why. And then we've got nothing off. We've got nothing behind them, like no strength and depth for people to come on and make any difference.
And it's concerning, but possibly a different sort of point. But like I'd say Franco has come out in the last game. He was on the bench. Didn't really notice he wasn't there. Not because he's not playing well, but I honestly think anyone in midfield and defence, you can take them out, other than the centre backs maybe, and it looks the same. Felton came in, looked the same. Kia Norton are interchanging, and Tyman's come out sometimes. It looks the same. Anyone in midfield and defence, because we're not creating anything going forward. We're relatively not solid, but I'm not panicking with how we're defending. But it is just the fact that I do think we've probably got League One caliber attacking players coming on.
Yeah.
Then nothing happens off the back of it.
That was what I was trying to say last week. I think that the three across the middle, like you've got Cooper, you've got Ronald, and you've got even though I know people rate him probably higher than the others, but I haven't seen enough from those three. And then in the week you've got like Pete Harris comes in, and then Bianchini comes in, and then Abdulai. Those options, just none of them are good enough at this level. I don't think. Well, not it's a bit harsh to say they're not good enough at this level, but what we've seen so far, they're not good enough to like open up a defense or create anything, or with the amount of possession that they do get. I know the build-up is a bit slow, but I just feel like they should be doing more. If you have a team that has that much ball at this level, they should be doing more with it.
Potnick's the only one of that group of players coming off the bench I'm not being as critical of right now, because I genuinely think the evidence of the last year and a half or so to me just suggests the number 9 position for Swans is one of the most difficult positions to play in the Championship right now. Because we thought it was Jerry Yates, it's just, he's bad, and we thought Kuharevich must be bad. I'm not saying either of them did brilliant last year, but I think what is exposed this season now especially, it is just the striker position. They're not getting service, they're not getting used, they're not getting the ball to feet. You're going to really struggle to have a number 9 come into the system and suddenly score a goal every 2 games, because they literally may as well not be there. They're just runners.
I do think you're kind of right to touch on that Yates there. Maybe we were a little bit too harsh on him overall. I know Lee's probably going to disagree because he had a bit of a thing against Yates by the end of it, and not to say that's not right, but he started off a season full of energy, full of running, and he ended the season a shell of that sort of player with no confidence. But then you see other strikers going into that role, as you just mentioned, and they also can't do anything. So is it a surprise to see a striker lose all of his confidence in this system?
No, and my thing with Yates last season, I wasn't sort of highly critical of him as a player, really. It just didn't work out. I was just saying he was just, by the end of it, he was absolutely shot of confidence, and he couldn't do anything. Now, I wasn't saying he was an awful player, but it just didn't work, and he just it wasn't right in the end. But now, like you said, it might not be a personal thing with him. It could just be the way that we play. Just like you said, like with Potnick. I thought we all thought that was a good signing on paper, as we did with Yates last summer, and like nothing's happening. I mean, what can you do if you're touching the ball? Like you can count on one hand how many times they touch a ball in a game. Whoever plays number 9 for us.
Tell you right now if you want. 14
He's averaging
times
about, what'd you say, 14?
for Potnick in this game, in his last game. So was that Sheffield Wednesday?
It's been more than I thought, to be fair.
I was going to say it's about 10, 15.
14 in 86 minutes, mind. That's
Keep in mind, a touch doesn't necessarily mean ball defeat. A touch can just be a bouncing ball and you get a flick. Flick on
but
it.
I remember at one point he picked up the ball in midfield because he'd come really deep and he'd almost lost it, and then he had to like dive in to retrieve it.
Yeah.
So that was probably about 4 of his touches there.
So 12
in the middle of the
touches
park.
for Cullen against Blackburn in his 60-odd minutes on the pitch. Just to highlight perhaps the difference then. So let's have a look at Ollie Cooper, who's directly behind. 31. That's not, I mean, maybe that's expected then. Pert Harris in the Sheffield game had 47 touches. So there's just that bridge is missing there, isn't it? Whoever's meant to make that sort of pass is just not making that pass.
This is what I'm saying though. I'll die on this hill at the moment. Is I just don't think that 3 behind the striker is good enough. Whoever's in there, whoever you slot in there, I don't think they're good enough. And again, I know like we'll come on to it, but maybe there's tactical issues as well. But I think the three across there, they're just not creative enough.
One other thing, I was having a look around going into this video just to see what we could discuss. So I know we've touched on perhaps change of formation. Maybe we'll revisit some bits around that with this conversation now. Wales Online did some article on how to fix the Swans attack. And one of the things that they were highlighting, which I think might have some merit, is in the way they're playing now, Mac Rhymes will often drop deeper into the centre of a back three. I think Ben alluded to this quite early in the season. And the wing backs, they might be pushing forward. I think he quite often comes in field as well. But Mac Rhymes seems to go back when that happens into like back three or sits deep. Do we think that's part of the problem? Are we pushing him too far back now? And if we consider him to be our best passer of the ball, are we just not getting enough out of him going forward and struggling as a result of that? Maybe. Because bear in mind, he started off right in his career as a central attacking midfielder. I'm not saying that that's where we should play him now, but we have gradually brought him back down the pitch further closer to our goal. And he is a creative player. You know, the last 2 seasons, he's had quite a lot of assists. Are we just putting him in a position where he can't tap into that creativity a bit too much when perhaps we need that right now?
Yeah, I feel like we did touch on this earlier in the season and a couple of weeks ago. It's only in certain games. It's not happening all the time. It's obviously something to do with the way the opposition's set up. So if the opposition's coming with a front three, we'll probably want to have the back four play out. If the opposition pressing with a front two, you'll see the full-backs push up a little bit, then Grimes drop in between the centre-backs, so we outnumber them by 1 again. So I think that's the decision that leads to Grimes dropping deep sometimes and sometimes not. It is a solution to the problem, though, where you place Mac Grimes, I think. I think right now, like you say, he often drops deep. He sometimes ends up out on the left-hand side of the field, obviously left-footed. A potential solution is if you put Franco deeper as like our anchor and then let Cooper and Grimes have the freedom to go forward. Grimes on the left, Cooper on the right, all like playing as number 10s in attack. Then all of a sudden, maybe the striker will be able to get more time on the ball because there's an extra player to mark. I'd push Grimes forward. Like there's no reason why not for me, honestly. If he has the creativity to have a midfield split in pass, he has the creativity to do it on the last line of defence as well.
Do you have anything to say on that one, Lee?
Yeah, no, I agree with what Ben said. He would be good. It would be good to see him push forward a bit more. I guess the only counter to that is that he's so good at what he does, and it's so pivotal. It's so pivotal having that type of player doing what he does is so pivotal to the way that we play. So we need it. We need him to do both. Really, we need him to be like getting the ball deep, and we need him to be further forward. But unfortunately, there's only one of him.
Do you think Franco lets us have the pressure off a bit with that problem, though? I think it was more of an issue last year. Franco, now I'm not saying he's the sort of player like Grimes who will always have a midfield split in pass, progressive pass and all that, but he is press resistant. So if someone comes to try and get the ball off Franco, I don't necessarily think they will always get the ball off Franco. What are you sharing now, Luke? You're going to show us Grimes.
Look, carry on. Carry on. I'll raise my point when you finished. I didn't mean to interrupt you with the screen share.
Well, I'm only looking in case I start digging a hole for myself. Is this just the Wednesday game you're sharing right now?
This is against Sheffield. So I'm not sure this is right though. To be fair,
that's Sheffield Wednesday though, isn't it? That's not.
Oh yeah, that is Sheffield. Sorry.
I was going to say because it showed like Grimes.
I wasn't ready.
I'm not trying to capture me out.
I put it up ready to discuss it because that's what we were talking about. I didn't mean you to stop speaking.
No. So I'm joking. I'm not winding you up. But yeah,
it's on point though.
Yeah, that probably lines up the Swans one with what we've been saying. I would say anyway.
See, like even Fulton is a bit deeper than Grimes there.
Yeah, I've got the Blackburn one there as well. If we want to look at that in a second.
Yeah, I'd like to see one with Cooper because Piat Harris. I'm not exactly sure what his role is for us still. To be honest,
look at Vipotnik though.
Abdullah is further forward than Vipotnik, and so is Ronald, to be fair.
One thing I'd like to point out as well, this probably is important with the front three in particular. I'm pretty sure the way this works is it does it on where they touch the ball. So if Vipotnik's got 14 touches of the ball, Grimes in the defence is more accurate, but I think the further forward you go, the less accurate it's going to be because how often there are attacking players.
Yeah, I was going to say, because there was that one incident in particular where Vopotnik dropped deep to get the ball, and I think he probably had half of his touches in that, because I think he had one or two touches, then he had a bad touch, then he had to tackle someone.
That's still a point to raise, isn't it? Because the fact he's had to go and do that, and if that skewed his position, says it all.
Yeah.
And for those of you listening on Spotify or audio platforms, just so you know, I pulled up a little graphic that shows the Swans' average positions against Sheffield Wednesday. So unfortunately, I can't relay that very accurately over audio only, but what we are basically gathering is you can see the formation. Against Sheffield Wednesday, Grimes and Fulton are clearly in the midfield, with Fulton perhaps slightly deeper on balance. He did get hooked earlier than Grimes, and I think we had a lot of possession in the last 20 or so minutes of the match, didn't we, when we made a few changes. And then who's 25? That's Pert Harris, isn't it?
Yeah.
Him and Vopotnik are kind of just above the halfway line, and then Ronald and Abdullahi are further forward again, but more inside than I expected.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm surprised at how narrow the wingers are, considering they like to go wide. It's really, they are a bit more narrow than I thought they would be.
Let me switch it out for the other game. Bear with us, and those watching as well. I know you're seeing all the little the settings, if you like, but I've got some changes with the other way that we normally record, so that's why you're seeing this stuff. We'll go back to the other way soon, but let me just pull that up a second. Blackburn, which one? Average positions. So that's a bit of a mess, let's be honest.
It's Grimes deeper, you know.
Grimes is deeper. It was 35. So we got Ronald is significantly further forward than anyone else. And again, more infield.
They're all on top of each other. There's no width there, is there?
Considering how much we focus on going wide.
Yeah, that's when it's true.
And how little shots we have in the middle, or like creating chances. It is surprising to see.
Again, 19 is Bianchini, isn't it? What the hell is he doing there?
How often did he touch the ball?
Yeah, well, every time he did, he kind of lost it as well. But notice something similar, like Ollie Cooper and Pete Harris are kind of in the same position as the 10s, like slightly to the left.
So these are the subs.
You can't push forward.
Joe Allen out a right wing.
I think he came on, didn't he, against Blackburn? So
yeah, subs aren't going to be accurate. I think if you need to look at heat maps for the whole season,
pushing me in the second half. So that's probably why the subs are so much further forward.
Like if you go on individual players, if you click on Ollie Cooper, for example, I don't know if you can see a heat map for the whole season. Is that a thing on here?
Yeah, this is for this game.
Just Blackburn.
I could probably get the whole season, but this is for this game at the moment.
But yeah, I feel like that game we just showed there was Grimes the deepest of the midfield three. Franco and Cooper were slightly more advanced. Maybe what we need is Grimes to be higher up the pitch. It opens us up more. Like we're going to be less defensively secure.
That's Grimes' heat map.
Yeah. We're going to be less defensively secure the further up the pitch Grimes is, because we probably forget how much he does off the ball for us as well. Yeah. But honestly, right now, like we got nothing going forward, so we need to do something.
I can get a heat map for everyone for the season if you want it.
Yeah, Cooper and Grimes are probably the two I'm interested in, just because.
Bear with me. We'll have some more technical.
Where Cooper is
you can't
see
it, guys, but when I'm pulling up these screen shares, everyone watching can see all the settings I got to click to put up the screen share. That's all. It's quite funny. Normally it's hidden, but it's not at the moment.
What Cooper's doing right now, I feel like we need somebody else doing that. Whether that's Grimes or not, I don't know. But a lot of the issues we have in terms of how slowly we circulate the ball is Cooper comes over to one side to help the winger out. Yeah. You then haven't got an equivalent player on the other side of the field to switch the play to. So then when we do circulate the ball, they're already set up to defend. He's basically a winner.
Yeah, this is highlighting what I was saying last week. His heat map is. So for those of you who listened last week, again, I know you can't see these heat maps, and I do apologise for that. But this is essentially showing Ollie Cooper now, who is playing behind the striker in a central attacking midfield position, never actually playing in a forward area in that role. He's always going out wide. whether it's left or right. Predominantly, he seems to be more on the left, and Lee probably. Well, I say Lee probably. I know you haven't necessarily rated any of the front three, but this is why I do think there's been a little bit more impact from Ji-sung than Ronald, because I think he's quite often going over there to support Ji-sung, and we're more dangerous on that side of the pitch, which is why I've noticed Ollie Cooper gets dragged over there. They do try and play in triangles, and one of them ends up trying to cut in generally. Either you'd get a shot out of him or more often than not, a bit of a naff cross. But he drifts out wide to support the winger, doesn't he? Generally, that's what he's doing. And you can see on the heat map quite clearly, the closer to the opposition box you get, the less you see Ollie Cooper in the centre of the pitch.
I guess it comes back to my point again. So if he's fit, why can't Amar Gavea do a similar job on the right flank?
I don't understand.
Centrally.
We'll get back to the youth, and let's finish this topic, and then we'll get back to the youth. I don't get it. I really don't get it, especially after last season. He seemed to be well up for integrating them. But should I have a look at this Wales match? Should we check
Ollie
Cooper's heat
more
map
in
for
the mid.
Wales?
I'd be interested if it's the same. Yeah, may as well.
Well, he did play a slightly different position though, didn't he? To be fair to him. I don't actually know how to get it up. Oh, hang on. Did he? He played centre midfield, didn't he, for Wales?
Yeah, he played as more of an 8, I think. Yeah.
Yeah.
But still managed to get out on the left wing, though, didn't he?
Is that not him though? Is that not his habit for him to sort of drift left?
I mean, it's habit, but then surely that's got to be a coaching decision partly as well, right?
It's got to be part of it.
That's the match before. This is the one from last international period. How crazy was the last Wales game, by the way, in terms of Swans Academy products?
Oh, I know. What was it? It was like out of the 23, it was like 9 of them came through Swans Academy.
But
it's good to see the way he did the changes as well.
Was it Montenegro? You had obviously Cooper came on, Josh Sheehan.
He's left again.
Yeah, but he's playing left centre mid, isn't he?
Yeah.
The biggest
I guess it's not really comparable.
Though.
Yeah. Sorry.
I said the biggest heat source is left wing. If you look at the darkness of the red.
But when he has played wing for us in the past, it's been on the left, isn't it, primarily?
Well, I guess the interesting thing with that is if you pull up maybe Pete Harris and see if he kind of drifts left as well, because then you know that's what they've been asked to do, isn't it? But mind you, he hasn't had as many games. Well, has he? Well, it'd be a bit skewed because he played up top, didn't he, against Sheffield United?
Yeah, that's
he's our second lowest rated player. It is more left, to be fair.
Yeah, he is kind of more left. Yeah,
it makes no sense to me.
I think it's because maybe they're trying to give Ronald more space because they think he can use it better.
Like drag players over, maybe. Yeah.
And I think the guys on the left are more technical, or at least when Ji-sung's there. So he's probably playing 1-2s and trying to beat players that way and a bit of skill. Whereas on the right, Ronald's more of a run-in winger. But it's not working for him, but that's what he is.
I understand the principle of overload and isolate is called. So like overload one half of the pitch, the left half. So then it gives Ronald a 1v1 situation on the right. But all I'd say is he's still ending up in 1v2s quite often, Ronald. If that's what we're trying to do, it's not working.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean...
Again, it's the speed we're switching the ball at.
Really, it's a bit... It's just not... Yeah, it's not working. That's summed it up. Anyone else we want to have a look at? Should we have a look at the strikers just to see what they're doing?
Yeah, Cullen, go on then.
I mean...
Look at the kick-off.
The middle and then...
It just shows how many of his touches are from kicking the ball from kick-off. I know you're getting at least one a match, yeah, so that's fair. But the fact that he's having so little touches elsewhere on the pitch, like...
That's a surprising number in the box, I can't lie. That's the first normal looking one we've seen, I think.
But you say normal, I think...
Normal as in that's where you'd want your striker touching the ball.
Yeah, expected.
Do you want it so sporadic?
Oh, I'm not. We know the strikers barely touch the ball. I wasn't expecting the box to be so red, though. I can't lie.
Yeah.
When you've got like just to make it easy, well, we've got 10 games. Say you got 100 touches for the season and 1 touch is in the box a match. It's going to be red just to the fact it's 10%.
Yeah, it's in the same area in the box, though.
Where's he scored his goals from? They've been from around that area, haven't they?
Yeah, I think he's only scored 2, and I believe he's our top scorer right now.
Similar, the kick off again.
It's similar. He hasn't played as much as he, so
yeah,
that's probably why it's a bit less prominent. Again, for those listening, just looking at the heat maps of Cullen and for Potnick, just kind of spread out over the pitch. I think that probably just shows as the play moves up and down, your strikers at the front of it, no matter what part of the pitch they're in. There's not, you can't be. I don't think there's that much we can get out of that. You wanted to see Grimes as well, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean Grimes, I think it'll just pretty much be orange everywhere. Yeah, there we are.
Wow.
Grimes is everywhere. Anyone that is wondering how much impact Matt Grimes has on Swansea City, this heat map for the season should tell you exactly what you need to know. The entire centre of the pitch is basically dark red, which shows very, very much involved.
He's everywhere.
Yeah, and then the rest of the pitch is basically yellow, which shows involved.
I tell you, if we're still going, I wouldn't mind seeing Franco as well.
Yeah, you can see Franco's. And
Does
his
he got
average
anything?
ratings there as well. Out of the 5 matches shown, 4 of them were above 7. So, I mean, people don't like to look at stats like that, like the scores that these sites give often, but I think if you're generally on the higher end, it's surely going to give a good indication. Franco's is...
It's about what you'd expect.
Yeah, I mean, it's not quite as
My
heavy
thought,
as Grimes is, but it shows he gets around a lot.
yeah, my thought process was if Ollie Cooper's drifting left, Grimes sits deep, maybe Franco drifts right a bit to support the other winger, but
It's not that advanced, is it?
not
It is
so
more
heavy.
heavy, just not as far forward.
Yeah.
What about Key? Maybe Key is supporting.
Yeah, because Key comes inside more than he goes
that's what I
outside.
thought, but
He
Yeah.
comes in the right centre mid, and Ronald sticks right.
He does come in quite a lot, Key. Yeah, well.
I mean, he does, but only to a certain degree, I guess.
Yeah. I wasn't expecting the right wing to be so red.
So we were
can't lie.
talking about
Yeah.
the heat maps we were looking in the individual games just now for the wingers. We were saying, or the average position we were looking at when we say we were surprised how inside the wingers are. Is this why?
I can't remember. Timon, fair enough. I remember him getting over on the left wing quite a lot. I don't remember Key overlapping much this season. So whether that's just when the opposition have penned back 10 men behind the ball, letting us pass around on the edge of the box doing nothing, I don't know. But I really don't think that's from Key getting in behind his man very much.
Doesn't look like he's overlapping though, because it kind of stops before you get to the corner. So you're probably right there. What do you want Timon as a comparison then? Go close their ratings are as well for the season, 6.8 and 6.79. It's very similar. The wing backs essentially have dark red, both of them, Timon and Key, dark red all the way up the touchline. And as you progress towards the centre of the pitch, they ease off into orange and yellow. It's literally a mirror, basically, both sides. And then you've got corners for Timon. That's quite funny.
Yeah. But
Look, he's got the dark red where he scored his own goal.
Great finish.
If you could do that on the other end of the pitch, that would be welcome at the minute.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, anyone else before I shut this down?
No, I think
No,
we've covered the main ones.
That's fine. I know we kind of went off a tangent a little bit on heat maps and average positions, but we're just trying to get heads and tails of what they're trying to do, and I don't think I've got an answer, to be honest. I can see what some of the individual roles are, especially further back in the pitch. And I do think it's fair to say, as much as I'm not fully convinced by the defending, I do think I still watch it and sometimes think, oh, we got lucky to not concede there. I think
Could be a good
gone 11, 12 games into the season and you still only conceded 7. Like, there's obviously some merit in it to an extent. I think Figueroa has had a big impact, and I like to say we have got a good scattered defence, but I think it needs to be scattered defence when we play the way we do, because a lot of the times we concede in chances is on the transition, so they are out of defensive positioning, and that's usually where we concede the worst chances. Although there are quite often times where teams seem to be able to pass through us a lot easier than we can pass through them. But when it gets to that last line of defence, we seem to recover quite well, and I think that's where we are in a good place.
Do you want
Defensively.
to know what the extra is saying?
Have you got it in front of you?
Yeah.
Go on then.
So we've conceded 7. How many should we have conceded? Take a guess.
I'm going to say 13.
Lee?
How many should we concede? I don't know. Probably about 10.
15.2. So more than double.
That's my point. I've been saying all season I'm not convinced defensively. I'm saying
I
now,
agree.
like, I'm still not convinced, but the longer it goes on like this, maybe you've got to give some credit, yeah?
So here's the next one, though, I was just going to bring up. We talked briefly off the pod about should we be conceded at the rate of a relegation defence? Where would we be in the league based on XG conceded?
Well, if it was based on just, like, top to bottom goals conceded,
Yeah.
I reckon we'd be in a relegation zone.
Do you? I don't know. I have no idea. XG is one that passes me, but maybe mid-table.
But no, he's just saying, like, if we had conceded...
No, I know. If we'd conceded, yeah.
Purely on goals against, only expected goals against, we are 17th. So we've actually got 6 or 7, just looking briefly, teams below us on that one. The main one of which being Plymouth, as Lee keeps banging on about how bad they are. Watford, who most of us said to go down, even though they're up in about 7th, they'd be 3rd bottom on XG against. And Sheffield Wednesday also down there, so that's unsurprising. What about goals scored? We scored 8. How many should we have scored?
Before we move on from that point, right, just to touch on Watford, what's their XG against?
19.8.
Right, they've conceded 19 goals.
Yeah.
What's Plymouth's?
20.8.
And they've conceded 19 goals. And what's ours?
Wow.
15.2.
And we've conceded 7. Okay,
Yeah.
I take back my comment. I don't trust our defence anymore. I revert back.
I don't know. This XG thing, I don't know. I don't know how much you can read into it. I don't know.
After 10 or 11 games, it's an early indicator that performances will either improve or worsen if there's a major discrepancy. And 8.2 goals, which is the discrepancy currently, that's the biggest discrepancy of goals against or goals scored in the Championship.
But I don't know. I don't feel like some games. I don't feel like our goal's not getting peppered, is it?
It's the goal. It's the thing is,
you have the chance.
I know, but like how? This is where I'm old school, and I hate the XG. It's like, how can you quantify what a good chance is? Like, because if a defender makes a mistake, for example, like Ronald just decided to randomly hit that back pass. I can't remember which home game it was, and the striker's technically he's running in on goal. Like that, I'm guessing that would be high chance, but they haven't created that chance.
No,
that would be high XG against.
No, but it's not about the opposition creating chances. It's about how many times you should have conceded. So regardless whether they created that or not, that was something one of our players did that allowed them to have that chance. Yeah,
I know, but it's not like reflective of the way that we're playing. I think, like, again, this is me being old school because I don't like the XG thing, but I don't feel like some games. Yeah, I think like Bristol City, for example, they probably should have beaten us. I thought they had quite a good couple of chances in the second half. Cardiff maybe had a couple of half chances, but I can't think. But I think like West Brom away and Middlesbrough away first game of the season, that probably takes up most of that XG chances because they battered us. West Brom did first half and Middlesbrough did, so that's probably doing the heavy lifting. Apart from that,
scored.
Yeah, Stoke had a couple of chances. But what I'm saying is, I don't think like Sheffield Wednesday never looked like scoring.
They hit the post. That would have been that was a tap in.
So did we.
No.
Yeah,
we didn't. But that was in terms of XG. That was a tap in that he should have scored that.
I know. But one of my point is, I don't think it's indicative of like us being really bad defensively because we've got like a high XG. Because it could, like I said, you could have one bad game like Middlesbrough or West Brom where they absolutely hammered the goal. But in other games, I don't think we're not like scrambling or hanging on or anything. Like I don't see us conceding loads of goals. I think that's a positive.
XG would reflect everything you've just said, though. That's the whole point. So you're saying that Middlesbrough battered us, that the XG against in that game would have been high. So Ben's
Yeah.
just said the result of XG against for the season, yeah, in terms of all the matches combined, yeah? Is that what that's the
Yeah.
one you've just read out, Ben? Yeah, so it's the same as, like, say goal was conceded, just say we conceded 3 against Middlesbrough and then we conceded 1 against West Brom, that would be 4 for the total. So, like, that's what he's just read out, is what we probably... You've said Middlesbrough was one of the ones that we got battered in. Well, the XG against in that game would have been higher. And then if you say another game where we weren't that bad, say you want to say Sheffield Wednesday, maybe the XG against in that one is lower, but they still add up to whatever the value was overall.
Yeah, that's what I mean. The total is high, but there's 2 games in particular there where, like, we probably should have conceded more goals, but they would skew the season figures then, wouldn't they? I think if we're talking like our general like defensive performance and that, I think the way that we play and the way that we do keep the ball quite well, I think from the back 4 into the midfield too, I think there's a solid foundation there. I can't see us conceding loads
I
of
don't
goals.
think it's necessarily awful. I think we still... I do think it's worse somebody looks with 7 goals conceded, though.
Oh yeah, no
and
doubt
I
we
think
probably
it's
should have
skewed by the possession, is what I've always been saying. It's like we look better than we are because we have like twice as much ball as the opposition.
Yeah. But
there's a few points to cover with it, right? First of all, XG in a single game is a pointless stat. So that's why we've waited till 9, 10, 11 games, and only then you can start picking up trends. Number 2, it is important to add context to it, like Lee just said. Every single game this season in all competitions, we've lost 1-0. Other than Wickham, I'd argue every single game, maybe other than Blackburn, we should have lost by more than 1-0. Sheffield United could have scored 3, West Brom could have scored 3, Borough could have scored 3. So yeah, that there is a case to be made that in those games, it's making the situation look worse than it is. But equally, eventually it does tend to catch up. What will happen is there'll be a game where maybe, we could have like nicked a 1-1 draw, we'll lose 2-1. We'll find ourselves on the wrong side of results. So there is a concern. Just equally, all I'd say is that expected goals against isn't telling us that we're a relegation threatened team necessarily. 15.2 is bang average. It's not good. But equally, like Lee said, I don't think we're currently a team that's going to go out and lose 3-0 a few times in a couple of weeks. And yeah.
that's what I'm getting at, really. I think that the way maybe that's why we play like we do, because if we were a bit more open, then maybe we would concede 3 or 4 in a game. So maybe we play the way that we do in order to be hard to beat, which is what we kind of saw on. I'm just playing a bit of devil's advocate here, just trying to understand what we're trying to do. But maybe we're playing the way that we do in terms of like, the way that we have this possession ball just enables us to not concede a lot of goals. And then if you start with not conceding a lot of goals, then maybe you can build up the attack on that afterwards. Maybe that's just a thought.
I mean, I think that might be the intention. We called for it for ages, didn't we? Saying that the defence needed to be sorted out. I just don't know if it is sorted out or whether it's been hidden, is my point. But it's fine, it is what it is. We conceded what we've conceded. And we are, factually is doing a better job than it was before, okay, in whatever way you look at it. Now, maybe that is part of the reason why we're not scoring as many goals, but unfortunately, the balance, in my opinion, then has gone too far one way than the other. We're factually the lowest scorers in the league.
Yeah.
And we're the only team to not hit double digits of goals. So if the XG against is a concern, as much as it hasn't materialised yet, and I guess what you were saying was 17th in the league, did you say, on that table?
Roughly, yeah.
We're currently sitting 14th, yeah. So it's, not really too far away, even though we haven't conceded those goals. We're kind of not far away from it, but that's more to do with the XG4 as well, which I would imagine I would be shocked if we're not in the relegation zone if it was based on that.
Well, should we touch on that quickly? So, expected goals for, we scored 8 goals in reality. How many do you think that we should have scored?
Probably be, I can't see it being much different to what we have scored because we don't create chances. I'd say 8.
12.2.
Oh.
Where is that in line with the league, though?
Let's have a check. I'm counting these manually. Hold on.
Mind you, we've got the ones I can think of. Maybe then is like the Peter Harris chance against Sheffield United.
Yeah, so there's one, and then I would say Ronald's probably responsible for every other chance we should have scored that we haven't.
I don't know. I don't know how that puts us 13th, which seems nuts. But yeah, that puts us 13th for expected goals scored.
I'm surprised by that. To be fair, it was a lot better
I
than
think,
we looked at it last time.
I like it. We were saying before we started. Like I think that mid-table in the Championship now, I think, is filled with a lot of poor teams. So while I think when I watch us, it's not great, and I don't think we're in a great position. I think there's worse teams than us. I think there's some real poor quality sides in that Championship at the moment.
All I'd say is it's very tight, and there are a couple of ones on there. I'm looking at them. I don't quite believe the stat. Like Burnley have a lower expected goals than us.
Oh, surely not. Yeah.
seems-
See, I'm gonna say about XG,
crazy.
boys. It's been it.
Burnley are the biggest overachievers in terms of how many goals they've scored this season.
Fair enough. I mean, I'm not saying that actually is perfect. I just think
No,
it's
I
a
know
good
what you mean.
indicator. Like
It's,
Ben was
it's
saying.
a good
And I think the
conversation to have.
defensive one. I know what you were saying. I do get your point, but when it's like this is what it is to me, right? When I've had these concerns since day one, and then the XG after 10, 12 games, whatever it is now, backs it up. It gives you that reassurance that maybe what you were seeing was right from the beginning.
Yeah, no, it's a good conversation to have with the XG. I think I just keep like tossing and turning on. I just don't know. I don't know what the plan is. I don't know what we're trying to do. So I keep going back and forth. Sometimes I try and like defend it and think, oh, maybe maybe it's this. Maybe this is what we're trying to do, and this is the outcome. But I'm just again, I'm trying to think positively. Is this the way to play so that we don't concede 5 goals? Because I think we're kind of saying the same thing. Because I think you're right in the sense that if we didn't have as much ball, I think we would be under more pressure. But is Williams looking at it and thinking, well, we can't like kind of rest defensively, so we play this way to make sure we don't concede? That's the first thing. We'll have 60% possession, less likely to concede the goals. Now, if he sacrificed that, and we saw the possession come down to like the 55% range, we could be losing 2-3-0, and then we would be up. Then there would be uproar if we were losing these games that we're drawing 0-0, or maybe winning 1-0 that we saw earlier on that we're losing like 3-0 or 3-1 or whatever. Then we would be a different ball game. So I don't know. That it could be totally wrong. It could just be that this is the way we're playing and it's not working. But yeah, we'll have to just see what happens. But they got to sort out going forward whatever happens.
I do think
Last
you've got a
couple
point, but like it's just what you do to try and fix it, and I'm not seeing any of that. What was you going to say? Sorry, Ben.
I'd say last couple of ones on the XG. We're currently 14th in the league. Where do you think overall, so the entire XG table, where do you think they would put us?
Well, it's got to be somewhere like 16th, is it? Because we were 13th on one and 17th on the other. So
yeah, so that has us as 15th. So pretty much where we are, which is somewhat of a good indicator, to be honest.
According to the XG that you
lower.
just raised, we should have scored a few more, but we should have conceded a few more. So we're kind of balanced off, just lower down in both categories.
Yeah.
So then the other one I was just going to bring up, our opponents this Saturday, Millwall. They're currently 13th in the league, I believe. Let me just double check that. Yeah.
They're playing now, aren't
they? What did you say they're playing?
Yeah, they're playing now as we record.
No, they beat Plymouth last night, didn't they?
Sorry, last night. I'm getting my days mixed up.
Because Plymouth are awful.
So they're currently 13th. They're currently 13th in the league. Where do you think they should be based on this?
Or lower down, maybe. I don't know. 19th. Not that I've seen Millwall play.
3rd.
Oh, wow. Bloody hell. So they should have scored more goals than they have then.
They've scored 14. They should have scored 18.2. They've conceded 12. They should have conceded 10.
Okay, I've got they're missing, according to the stats I've got up, they're missing 1.8 big chances per game. We are missing 1.4.
But will they get 1.8 chances with 30% possession?
Yeah, well, they do. Teams do though, don't they? They do.
No, I know, but I guess that's the logic of the way that we play. And I don't know. Are we? I guess the question is yeah, we're awful to watch, but are we playing bad? Are we an awful team? I don't know.
We're just average, and we're an average team.
I said it before, right? We're good up until the final third.
Yeah.
But nothing happens then, which Unfortunately, football is about scoring goals. You could play as well as Barcelona or prime Brazil up to the final third, right? But if you don't do those things in the final third, you're a boring team.
Yeah. No, I know, and
If they started
I'm not
doing
defending
that
it.
in that part of the pitch, then I'm sure everyone would say we're playing amazing. Just to reference, Sheffield Wednesday had one big chance against us.
It's one at the post, was it? Probably.
I don't know if it was that one. Shouldn't they have
Because they didn't
scored?
have a shot
They
on
shouldn't have
target.
scored like right after half time.
They only had one shoot. They didn't have a shot on target, did they? I don't think.
No, but I wouldn't necessarily shout about shots on target. We had two against Blackburn, for example, and they were both from
No,
our
I
centre
know.
backs.
No, I know. I just mean, I guess that's the type of game that we're always involved in now. I think we kind of drag teams into it, don't we? Where there's few chances for both teams in the game.
Blackburn had two big chances against us, so what's that, an average of 1.5 a game in 2 games.
Yeah, it's got to be fixed anyway. I'm not defending like what I'm seeing on the pitch. I'm not. I'm just trying to think what the plan is, because if they can continue the way they are with possession wise and goals conceded, and they can fix going forward, then we'll be in a very good place. Because I think like the first half against Stoke was probably one of the best performances we had all season. We had plenty, like Ronald had about 4 chances, at the bar. So we looked really good in that first half against Stoke, but it's just can we find that formula for a 90 minutes?
It is easy to forget, short memories. Like, it's only 4 games ago we lost Sheffield United, and I said first half, even though again chance creation wasn't brilliant, we went up against the best defense in the league at that point. Pretty much still to this day that rings true, and we were the better team. Really unlucky to go in 1-0 down. Second half we capitulated without actually conceding.
I think like because we conceded that we missed that chance, and then we had an own goal like straight after, didn't we? And I think we fell apart after that. But we were good up until that. We were good that first half.
I think it's one of those ones, like, yeah, it's been bad the last 4 games, no denying that. But it could easily just be corrected as quickly as it's, gone wrong at the same time. A 2-0 win on the weekend, all of a sudden no one's complaining.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're far from dire straits, yeah.
Let me read off some stats then, just to put in the context of our current situation. We're on a 5-match winless streak, which includes 3 draws and 2 defeats, with only 1 goal scored in those 5 matches, which came at home to Bristol City. We are currently sitting, 14th in the league at the moment, with 13 points. This time last season, after 11 games, we had 15 points. And we had a horrendous start last season where we were searching for our first win after 7 games? Still.
Mm-hmm.
So I just want to highlight that point because of how much discourse there was at the time last year. And then I guess a question that comes from that point in particular: do you think we've got a better or worse squad than we had this time last year? Bearing in mind, everyone absolutely slates last summer.
I think our squad, I don't know, I think our squad was probably better last year, wasn't it? Because I think we had more options off the bench, didn't we?
So my
reply
to that is, was this summer worse than last summer?
I don't think it was. I think the issue is it was such a big
true.
turnover. A lot of the players we signed last year were on loan, so we were never getting them back.
So which ones of those are we missing then?
I'm not saying we're missing them. I'm just saying, even though I didn't rate most of them, I'd still prefer them coming off the bench than Piat Harris and Abdullahi on the wing.
Okay, so maybe bench, but like the team first 11, which is playing 70 minutes of the match, is it stronger now or was it stronger last year?
I don't know really. It's not much because it's not much difference, is it?
I don't know. I think it's quite different. You've got Rushworth's not there. You've got
but Vigouroux is good.
Yeah.
Like Franco's come in.
I'm not saying. I'm just asking the question.
No, I know.
Yeah, you're saying it's not much difference. Franco's come in instead of Felton. You got this time last year. Ronald wasn't here as well, so you got Ronald and and I guess Cullen. You would have had a Yates instead. So it's quite interchangeable there for me. Not really that bothered. Obviously, we were playing wing backs rather than 4 at the back. But I'm just asking the question because I think it's quite important when we look at our expectations and where we seem to be having patience. I'm not saying we shouldn't be patient, right? And I'd be more glad if the fan base can be a bit more patient going forward because maybe that's what this needs, is a bit of patience, yeah. And I just highlighting how much was thrown around last year, how bad last year's summer was, and all this, that, the other, but we're actually worse off in the table. For me, I would have thought the squad right now is in a little bit of a better place because it's more in line with how he wants to play. He had more of an influence on the players coming in. Maybe it's not there in terms of depth, but I just think it's an interesting conversation.
The only
Yeah.
ones I'd say, looking at that, we're missing. I feel like Patterson goes under the radar a bit. Not that he did exceptional last year, but I think it was a standard season from him. And it's the
Yeah,
sort of player we're missing. I think you killed the Jamie Patterson off the bench right now. I can't lie to you.
But do you
This-
say that's like we had the option to keep him? No one knows what
Well,
that
we
contract
tried, didn't we?
negotiation was like.
Yeah,
You don't
we
know.
did offer
We
him a
don't know, do
contract.
we? Maybe we didn't offer him nothing, basically.
No, but I was thinking of that earlier. I'm glad you brought Patterson up. It goes back to my point about the personnel that we've got in those positions. Patterson, for whatever we thought of him, was just a creative player. He always had something. He could just do. He could have a shot. He could maybe find a pass through the middle to the striker. He could play a good ball out wide or something. He could create something in that position, and that's what we're absolutely dying for, and that's what we haven't replaced. I think back to last year as well. We're relying on someone like Lowe, who would maybe be a bit more direct from the wing, where he had a couple of times where he would kind of have a burst in run, wouldn't he, from the left, and we're just not seeing it.
Did you see Patterson was on the pitch with Messi the other day?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's quite funny. All right, okay. So say we want to say right now they're tit for tat, right, in terms of the resources at disposal. I think Lee made a comment earlier that this league is definitely a worse league right now overall than it was last season. We are currently doing worse in that worse league than we were this time last season with a squad that tit for tat is no better, no worse. I just think these are interesting points to make. That's all.
yeah. I mean, yeah. We like we've said it. We've said it in the last video as well, didn't we? I do think we're still on that knife edge where, as much as I've tried to be positive, if it carries on the way it does, we are going to be in trouble, aren't we? If we carry on the way that we're going, not being able to score goals, not being able to create chances, then we are going to be in trouble. I'm just hopeful that we can sort out, and I guess we'll come on to maybe like the youth players coming in. Maybe that's an answer, but yeah, I'm not defending it the way it is at the moment. It's not good enough.
Are you going to laugh at me if I say Liam Walsh as well?
No, I would have kept Liam Walsh personally.
He's an option, isn't he?
I would have kept
He's a
him,
good
especially
option.
with if we didn't have any. I said from the start, didn't I? If we aren't going to spend the money elsewhere, then keep him. Same as Joe Allen. Even if it's just for a year, an extra year, you know what I mean? Like he must have dropped his wages after his injury concerns to even get on the pitch at Luton. I know that they had come down from the Premier League, but I can't imagine them picking up Liam Walsh was a case of splashing the cash.
Oh no,
They picking him up to try and cut their spending 100% with a good quality option that, if it works out, would have been a bit of a bargain. That's probably what they viewed it as. And if it doesn't work out, it probably isn't the end of the world for them. I'm not saying Liam Walsh is the answer. I don't believe
I know what
he's
you're
picked up an
saying.
injury for them this season, from what I can gather. He's picked up a stupid red card, but that's another conversation. Yeah. I just think we didn't do it for obvious reasons because of the injury record. Fair enough, right? I don't think you can necessarily argue with that. But in the situation that we are in, I don't see the harm, especially now we're getting free agents here on trial and stuff. What was the harm in just saying, have another year, we're going to cut the wage, we'll see how it goes. Obviously, maybe he didn't want that. We don't know, do we? But I would have done that.
It just seems crazy when we're recounting all this now. Walsh and Patterson both departing. I know Lowe wasn't a cam, but he was another option out wide who you could rely on, and he could go up front as well. It does seem nuts that we didn't bring in a cam. I know we said it at the time, but it seems even more nuts now, I think.
I think that is the missing piece, isn't it? Is having someone in that role that can do something, that can create something. That would be massive.
Tactically, it seems to want them to go wide, though. That's my biggest question mark.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Cooper's one who drives the ball, and he's not. I still don't think he's the sort of player who can pick a ball up in a pocket of space and unlock a defense, which is what you need when you're in that central area.
And that's fine, but we still need to address it, don't we? I guess.
Yeah, I think on like the going wide thing as well. I think like we need to talk about like Ronald. He just I don't know what's happened because he just looks like a different player than he did last year. I mean, because I think if that's the plan where we looked at earlier, where Cooper's going left with when he's fit, and that's creative one on should be creating chances for Ronald. He's not doing much with it, is he? There was a couple of times against Sheffield Wednesday where he did kind of have his full back one-on-one, and just you can't beat a man. Does anyone see him beat a man that often and get a ball in the box? I don't see it. And this is what we were saying earlier. We'll come on to it. Like, have we not got? He's not asked to do a lot defensively, so I can't see there being any harm in putting in a Gavea or a Sam Parker when he's fit, or someone with a bit of speed, a bit of just a bit of excitement. Because if they're going to get the ball 10, 15 times a game against their fullback, I'm pretty sure there's got to be a winger or a forward a forward thinking player in the reserves. I shouldn't say reserves, like academy that can do something, that can get a ball in the box at least.
Yeah, Gavea, Wilson, Parker. I know we've said it earlier.
Yeah, I'll give me a second.
For me, if any of them are fit, they got to be a consideration right now. Honestly, especially now that Ji-Sung's injured. Because if you can't include them at this point in time when we're even lighter out wide, then
Yeah, if you say to any winger, especially a young winger who's enthusiastic, and sometimes they come on and they're quite sharp and they're keen to impress. If you say to him, right, you're going to get the ball, you're going to come on for 10 minutes, 15 minutes, we're going to get you one-on-one with your fullback, maybe 3 or 4 times. Can you get a ball in the box?
I can't.
Or beat the man and have a shot.
There's 3, isn't there? There's 3 players that we have used in recent years that seem to, I don't know, for whatever reason, they're just not featuring at the moment. And you think if we're playing in this situation now where we're not scoring, we're not doing great, why is there not one popping up on the bench, getting a little bit of game time? I don't know.
Gavea especially, because Williams is a person who brought him in to start. Like, it's not like Cameron Congreve was out on loan, Russell Martin played him, we haven't seen him since. This is someone Luke Williams thought, let's give him a chance. I know he only played 68 minutes of championship football across 5 games, we should say that. It's not as if this is someone who was starting games for us, I know, but still. He's been on the pitch multiple times, 5 weeks in a row, now I'm looking back in time, actually. So
that was kind of the...
Yeah, that's what I mean. He broke Gavea out of nowhere because he wasn't even anywhere beforehand. The next thing, he was on the bench and coming on. We've seen often youth players on the bench who don't get on, but he brought him onto the bench and he came on often, and he spoke about him quite a lot in the conferences, saying how he's going to be a big deal and all this. And nowhere to be seen now. I know there was quite a few injuries amongst them pre-season. I think Sam Parker did feature in a few of the friendlies. I just don't get how they're not getting considered right now. Even, look, we spent money on Bianchini and he's not really seems to be hitting the ground running. So why is one of these guys not coming in? Is it because we spent money and they don't want to admit that defeat? But then begs the question, why can't we not just use our youth a little bit more and spend the money a bit wiser in other... Right, we got look at our youth system. Who are the projects that are coming through that we perhaps think can cut it? Oh, they're all wingers. Why don't we just... Okay, we've got Ji-Sung, we've got Ronald. Maybe we should just promote them and try and give them that game time.
You lose nothing. Lose nothing by chucking them on when you're 1-0 down, like Blackburn on Saturday, for example. What would we have lost by bringing on, a young winger for 10 minutes at the end?
Kyle Wilson's the other one I think people have been calling out for, because he, out of all of them, has proven he's also a goal-scoring winger. He scores a lot of goals from wing, and we want a goal scorer, and we need a bit more creativity in the forward areas. That screams get him on the pitch.
Because the risk is, right now, people are a bit bored, but they're not exactly like, they don't hate the manager, they don't want the manager out, it's not too toxic yet. If it goes on for, say, another 3 months and it continues like this, all of a sudden, the Liberty is going to be like a toxic cauldron then, isn't it? At that point, you're going to struggle to get these players on the pitch. Because that's not a good environment to bring a young player with little experience into.
But at what point does that become a problem? And also, like you're saying about the Liberty getting toxic, like a lot of the fans are just not coming back at the moment. So they have started voting with their feet a little bit, you know.
Yeah, it is difficult. It is difficult. Like even like we got like season tickets and stuff, but like you're thinking going Saturday now is like, is it going to be the same? Like, is it going to be the same? I think we go in hope that it's going to be fixed, but it's going to be difficult, isn't it? If it's 90 minutes of huffing and puffing again and doing nothing.
Like going into this game, I'd like to see a bit of a mix up. We've spoke about a different formation. I don't know if we I'll be honest, like, you know, a lot of that chat did happen before the technical difficulties. I hope I can get it back in. But that's an option. Do we realistically want to see that this week? Do we want to see a 5 at the back system this week?
I'd like to call it 3 at the back, as 5 at the back just makes it sound more negative.
Okay. 3 at the back system. Is that something that you'd be happy to see when the lineup comes now against Millwall? You'd be happy to see that? Or do you think you should persist? Bearing in mind, at home, we have probably been a bit better, I think. We haven't lost at home yet, from what I remember, in terms of the league games anyway.
No, I think you. Well, Wickham. Wickham's the cup.
Yeah. No, we haven't.
It's we haven't lost any league at home. So do we persist and try and correct it the way we're doing it at home now, or are you hoping and expecting to see a change in formation this week?
I think if we do a tactical change, you do it at home. That would be my preference. I don't expect to see it this Saturday.
Next question then: if he does go and make that change now, what's your lineup?
So basically, you're asking me is it going to be Abbey or Norton, right?
I think it's Norton because he clearly doesn't trust Abbey. That's another talking point, but we haven't got.
Yeah, I think Norton comes in if they go into a 3. It's definitely going to be
maybe
Norton.
Abbey comes on off the bench to try and get him integrated. But I think starting him in this game, considering he's only started against Wickham, and he had an absolute mare and he didn't play 90 minutes, I just really would be surprised. Pedersen, by the way, has got a hamstring injury, so he's not even in the picture.
Yeah, the rest of the team pretty much named itself after that. Then in a key time and wing back, Grimes, Franco holding midfielders, Cooper just in front for Potnick, Cullen up top. Ronald desperately needs just to not play for a week or 2.
So
I agree.
Cullen and Vipotnik, and then who comes on? Ronald from the bench.
You'd have to say Ronald, then you revert him back to the original system, unless you want to put him up front. But he's not a striker, is he? He's not.
You can't shoot for me.
That's
Whether
the thing.
You can distract enough to make the other guy have space, maybe.
This isn't like Jamal Lowe or Josh Ginnelly, where they're decent finishers and you can mold them into like that inside forward. Ronald, no.
I think like thinking of that though, like thinking who would come on in that situation, like Ronald would come off the bench, and then everyone else.
Afterlife could actually come on and play Cam, and maybe it'd actually be all right.
Yeah, I think that's gone. That's never going to happen. It's just
it's just not going to happen. At front, haven't we?
I tell you, we say this. We know who would come on. Pert Harris would come on up top.
This is what I'm saying though. Like Pert Harris would come on, or Pete Harris. I'm not really sure how you say his name, but but he comes on, and it just hit me then. I think of just the lack of actual attacking options that we have. Like Cullen chips in with some goals. Vipotnik obviously is probably still finding his feet. Ronald doesn't score, and that's it. Where else are goals?
36 games.
Where else are our goals coming from? I mean, Cooper scores once every 20 games, maybe. We've never had goal scoring midfielders. Who is going to score goals? I
don't know. I haven't got an answer to that question.
I know. That's what I mean. We haven't actually got goal scorers.
Where's Selena when you need him in there?
Yeah.
But that's what we need, someone like him in that slot. Anyway, if we're going to change to that formation, there's a few things we didn't discuss. We will get to the end of the video soon. They looked into the free agent market. I know we discussed this already. I think Adam Ricci said is gone.
Yeah.
Not going to be on the cards. Christie is still training. Potentially there's still option there. I wonder if, looking at these players, part of it was a consideration to go to this different system. So if you're going to get a Cyrus Christie in, you've got an extra wing back, and by all accounts he can play in the centre right position in a back three as well. So it gives that extra option. I know he's getting on a bit, but it gives that extra option if you're going to open up positions at the back.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I also think maybe if we're looking at what's already in the squad, so we've got Choa on as featured regularly on the bench all season. Maybe he's more trusted in a wing back left role than he is in a left back role. If we're going to look at what can we actually do and change to get more out of the team, what could we try different? Do you know what I mean? Like maybe if we make that switch, there's more of a trust of like, I can interchange Timon sometimes, but I don't feel like I can in a back four with that player. I'm not saying he's the answer. I'm just trying to look at bigger picture of what he's maybe looking at with his players, you know.
I just think Luke Williams has played him to prove a point already, and we won't see him again now.
Well, he's been on the bench. There's no need for him to be on the bench if he's not going to include him.
I think he's played a few times. The Wickham game.
He have come off the bench in the league.
I know he's. Well, when's the last time he's played? No.
I know he's saying no. I think he played him.
Early ones.
I think obviously I doubt like nobody played him before this season. And I think you're right. I think he did play him to prove a point in that Wickham game. Yeah, I mean, he was way
He's
off
played
it.
2 minutes against Preston. He then didn't be in the squad for 4 games. He's been on the bench for 4 of the last 5 games, but hasn't come off the bench.
Well, we'll see. I'm just trying to play.
Yeah, I know.
Picture. Yeah, no, I know.
Like if Timon gets injured, right? Say Timon gets injured, and then Pedersen's already injured, who's another one that could play on the left. Say Norton gets injured, because that's not out of the question. It probably will happen at some point. You might have to play him.
I'd put Nelson Abbey though.
It is a worry as well. Like we're saying about strength and depth with the injuries, like you've named a couple there, but more so like what happens if like Cabango or Darling get injured? Seriously, like touch wood. Like what on earth are we gonna do?
It'll happen at some point. You won't go home.
It seems like it'll happen at some point because I think both of them have had spells of injuries, if I remember right, in the past couple, like 2 seasons.
I think Cabango.
But obviously we've had Wood and stuff to cover, but.
You're saying Nelson Abbey, but he equally had such a bad performance in the Wickham game, and I haven't seen light of day since either. So I mean, they're both in the same boat really. One of them's ours and one of them isn't. So
he's got more of a proven track record, though, hasn't he? Abbey.
Yeah,
we are lucky at the moment,
though, and he didn't really play for Olympiacos. I don't know. I just interested in what Luke Williams might be thinking. Why? Because Adam Reach is more left-sided, and he's let him go. But we're looking at keeping Christie. So I'm just wondering potentially if that's part of the thinking here. Because my immediate thought of any of them players was, well, they're in the wrong area of the pitch where we've got an issue. But if we're looking at changing the formation, maybe that's partly why. Because ultimately, let's be honest, right? There probably isn't a solution to our issues out there in the free transfer market within our wage budget, or they'd already be in the club, or they'd already be at a club. So it's naive to think, dip into the free transfer window and get a striker. There's a reason why they're there in the first place. Like let's be totally honest. That's the facts of it. So maybe he's looking at other areas of the squad that we can get contribution out of. Maybe that means changing tactically as well with the inclusion of these players. I don't know. Going forward, then I guess like we kind of already spoke about it. Maybe there's some interchange and ways that we play. We're looking at focusing on the wide areas of the pitch to formulate our attack, and then we've spoken about it before where we don't have enough in the middle then to exploit oppositions when we do get the ball inside and we seem to be getting snuffed out. Maybe having just the wing backs responsible for the wide attack in play and then having more infield will be an answer, but I guess time will tell. Going into this game against Millwall then to end off the video really, are we going to say, is this a must win? I personally think.
No.
I think we're in territory where I don't think it's maybe not quite must win, but it's must not lose. I think.
I don't think it's must win, but it's hard to describe it. But I think it's one of them. Like I can feel what it would be like if we lose that game at home. I think there'll be a lot of unhappy fans. I think it will be the start of the turn if we lose on Saturday. I think it'll be a start of the atmosphere going towards that like toxic atmosphere that we talked about. I think that will be the real start if we lose that on home.
Call me an old soul, but I think must win applies to a game where if you lose, you're theoretically relegated, or theoretically, if you're going for
Okay,
promotion,
fair
you cut.
enough.
Like a 6-pointer.
Yeah,
I just
like,
mean in regards to Luke Williams now and him turning this around. What's the importance of this game? I think it's quite important, personally. 5 without a win now. I think a draw is fine. A draw buys him time. But a defeat at home against Millwall, who they've gone ahead of us yesterday, only on goal difference. If we're looking at the table, we're on 13 points. We're only currently 4 points above relegation. And everyone liked to laugh about Cardiff's start of the season. But if they win on the weekend and we lose, they'll go ahead of us. So all of a sudden, how things have changed.
I just like to point out the 4 points above relegation. I'm not suggesting for a second we're going to get playoffs this season, but we're also 4 points off 7th. So I just got to add the context that it's a ridiculously tight table still.
Yeah, but 4 points off 7th, 6 points off 6th.
No, I think
you get my point though. There's 6 points separating.
Yeah.
But that's going to happen. Like I said, I think the top 6 will go at some point, and there'll be that block of mid-table where, if you're not careful, you can get sucked in again, like we saw last season. I think it will. But yeah, but equally, I think Saturday's a good chance to get things right. I think, like we said, if they go out and win 2-0, play well, then you can start to look forward. But yeah, I don't know. I just worry a bit if we lose, because I think it is starting to turn a bit. I think people are unhappy with the way what they're seeing. And I think even if we just have a bit of a performance, like I said, the first half against Stoke was good. We looked like we might score. If we can just have just a bit of creativity, even if the game does end in a draw, but at least we need to see something a bit more exciting. I think that's more important than the result at this stage of the season now. I think, as you said, the table is still tight. So I think it's not a must win, but a must perform. That's what I'll call it.
Yeah,
that's fine. I would agree with that. For me, I want to see what are you going to do about this attack. That's what I want to see. But I've been asking that for a long time, and I've not seen an ounce of any change in addressing it. It's just been try the same thing. I couldn't tell you what that is to a T. I think I've explained last week, especially what I think he's trying to do, and I've explained why I think it's not working as well. And I haven't seen anything to say that's been tweaked at all season. I think all I've seen is it hasn't worked, and because it hasn't worked so much, the players have done worse because perhaps they're not confident in it anymore, or don't back themselves as much as they might have earlier in the season. The more that they go on without scoring, it happens, doesn't it? They go into their shells, and there seems to be nothing to say otherwise that there's a way out of that. I just want to see that on the pitch now. Is what is the way out of it?
I agree. I think we're kind of saying similar things. I've tried to defend it a little bit, but it's going to be hard to defend if we see more of the same, because, like you said, nothing's changing. Like, again, we said how predictable that performance was going to be on Tuesday night. We knew what was coming, and Sheffield Wednesday knew what was coming, and Millwall will know what's coming, and we'll see a similar game. I'd like to see. I just like to see 2:00 when the team comes out, something has changed and we've got something to talk about and something to get excited about. Like, whether that's, maybe I'd like to see, even if he doesn't change formation, maybe plays Cullen and Vipotnik, and maybe drops Cullen a little bit deeper. Maybe does something like that. I don't know. But I'd just like to see, when that team sheet comes out, I'd just like to see something to sink your teeth into, something a bit exciting.
I wouldn't say no to that. I wouldn't say no to Ollie Cooper goes to the left, Cullen comes to the cam position, Vipotnik up top.
Yeah.
Rather than playing Bianchini or Abdullah out there. If he wants to stay in the same formation, obviously Franco needs to come back in. I'd imagine Key comes back in.
Yeah.
Abdullah got an injury anyway, didn't he? I don't know if that's going to go into this weekend or not. He was cramp that went a bit. He couldn't get over it in the match.
I'm sure it'll be fine.
Anyway,
score predictions?
Yeah, you could pull him up. I don't like this game anymore.
You're not gonna like it even more in a second. So no, let's recap. So Blackburn we got Blackburn and Sheffield Wednesday to look how we did. So Lee went 2-0 to Blackburn. Luke went 1-0. I went 1-0 to the Swans. The score in that game was 1-0 to Blackburn. So Lee gets 2 points. Myself and Luke come up empty there. Sheffield Wednesday away. Lee went 1-0 to the Swans. Luke went 1-0 to Sheffield Wednesday. I went 1-1. Correct scoreline in that game was 0-0. So I was the only one to get 2 points there. So now totals we're looking at in the top right here. Lee's on 13 points, Luke is on 6, and I am on 17.
Luke, you okay?
Huh?
You okay down there?
It's a long season.
It is a long season. We're not even.
I don't think any of us are really doing well, are we? I'm just being Sheffield Wednesday last year, that's all. But
so we've already done
I find it really hard to predict the results at the moment because they're all low scoring, aren't they? But it's either a draw or 1-0 win or 1-0 loss. Like, and it's like toss a coin.
It's the same, it's the same performance and the same potential scores, but it's just picking the right one.
So we've done our predictions already off screen. We'll type them in again now. So remind me, Luke, you went 1-0 to Millwall, if I'm right.
Did I? I might have said 1-0 Swans, I think.
I'll check that. Nope, you went 1-0 Swans. Never mind. 1-0 Swans.
If Millwall win 1-0, I'm deleting
I'm going 0-0. I'm going 0-0, a trusty 0-0. And Lee, did you say 2-0 Swans? Or am I making that up as well?
Yeah, I did say 2-0 Swans, but I was voting in my head. Are we going to score 2 goals?
You said it.
Yeah, I'm not going to take it back. I'm just
saying. No one back in Millwall, the team with 3rd in the league on XG to win against the team who hasn't scored in 5 games.
We made the predictions, did we?
No, I know, neither did I. But
no, I would have talked myself out of 2-0 if we'd done it after. Yeah, definitely.
I'm using the same rule I've used for my last prediction, which obviously didn't go very well, so maybe I shouldn't. But we haven't scored in 4 games. Can we really not score in 5 games?
Yes.
It's the Mick McCarthy thing, isn't it? Can it get any worse? It can.
I mean, I've got no words then. If that's what it is, then.
But I also
like Paulo Sousa all over again, except the other end of the table.
But again, like I said, I feel like if we were to go out and win 2-0 on Saturday, that wouldn't surprise me either.
We need to get Chef Kikuki back.
God, yeah.
Just a bit mad, some of the stats that are coming up from our games now, though, Obviously, you haven't scored in 4. We've lost 5 games in competitions this season, every single game being 1-0. So we haven't conceded more than a goal in a game this season still, somehow. And in only one of the league games this season, the away team has won, which was us against Coventry.
Yeah.
What you say? In only what?
In only one of the league games this season, out of the 11 games, the away team has won, which was us against Coventry. And all the other games, either the home team won or it drew.
Oh, yeah. Well, on paper, that's not a bad form.
That bodes well for Saturday, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But unfortunately, on paper, it doesn't say the full story. Okay, that's fine. Thanks for that, Ben. Let's get that off the screen.
Can we just give a shout out to TNS, who just won their first Conference League game while we were recording?
Let's just make this a Welsh Prem podcast at this point. Well,
no, good win though. 2-0 against Astana, however you pronounce it. I know it's a long way to go and you can't expect them to stay there, but as it stands, they'd finish in the top 24 out of the 36 teams, which means they'd go in a playoff to go into the knockout rounds, which is nuts. But yeah, the context is there's teams like Copenhagen, Real Betis, Panathinaikos, Basakeshia, who are currently not in those playoff places because they've had 2 hard games. So yeah, let's we'll take that with a pinch of salt, but well done, TNS.
Well done, TNS.
Good effort.
Okay. Anything else before we leave?
Nope, that's that.
I said it wasn't going to go long. It's been a bit longer than I thought in the end. Not as long as last week, but hour and 20 minutes, not too bad. Okay. Well, thanks, lads, for your input this week. Hopefully we've got more positive stuff to talk about next time. Fingers crossed, because it seems like, again, it's like repetitive, same rubbish, different day at the moment. I'm sure it'll come back round. But as always, thanks everyone for being here. Sorry about the technical difficulties. This video and the last few, I know there's been a couple in some of the match previews as well with the sound. Hopefully they would be fixed going forward. But yeah, just teething problems with some bits at the moment. So just apologising for that. But yeah, we'll get it sorted and we shall see you in the next video. So thanks again and have a good one.
In a bit.
See you in a bit.